Ready? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Binghamton City Council Business Meeting for Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. Just a quick apology to everybody that came. We had a joint sewer budget meeting that went over a few minutes, so I apologize for that. We tried not to do that, but I am happy that we're back live and we have people here, so welcome. And I'd ask everybody to stand for the pledge, please. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Clark, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Yes, Councilman Scaringi is on military leave. Councilwoman Resnetti,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley,
Present.
Councilwoman Friedman is absent. Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Scanlon,
Present.
and President Strawn.
Present.
That's 5 here, 2 absent, Friedman and Scaringi.
Okay. And now as for the approval of minutes, Councilwoman Resnetti.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 7th, 2022 business meeting and the September 15th, 2022 special business meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. We now need to set some public hearings, and I will turn it over to our clerk, Mr. Rogers.
Okay, we have 4 public hearings that we need to set for our next meeting. The City of Binghamton will hold a public hearing regarding RL 22-215 entitled an ordinance amending chapter 410 of the Code of Ordinances zoning to allow cannabis related businesses in certain zoning districts. That public hearing will take place at the next business meeting at 6 p.m. here in City Council chambers in person on October 6th. There's 3 more public hearings here. The second one is regarding RL 22-216 entitled an ordinance amending chapter 410 of the Code of Ordinances zoning to address student housing. The third public hearing that will happen on October 6th is regarding RL 22-217 entitled an ordinance to rezone 187 Clinton Street from L2 light and medium industrial to a C4 neighborhood commercial. And then the fourth public hearing that will take place on October 6th is regarding RL 22-218 entitled a resolution authorizing the mayor to submit an application for funding from the Empire State Development Corporation Restore New York Communities Initiative Round 6. Residents wishing to submit public comments for the public hearing may do so electronically by emailing their comments prior to 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting to clerk@citybinghamton.com or in person during the meeting.
Council President,
Yes.
thank you. Because of the nature of a couple of these public hearings, and because we want to ensure we have enough time to conduct the business of council, would this body be opposed to dividing? So we have 2 public hearings on the 6th and then 2 public hearings the following business meeting date. And again, we can base those upon what needs to be expedited. Perhaps we can move public hearing number 1 and public hearing number 2 to the second, not the next business meeting, but the second business meeting. Again, we've never had 4 public hearings in one night, and depending upon the nature of the public comments and how supportive they are, I would like to provide the maximum amount of time by dividing them out. Thank you.
Of those, is there any of those that aren't time sensitive in the truest sense of the,
I'm not aware of any time sensitive out of the four.
vote on that? Do we have to,
Because we have 4 on one night, we also, it is post a holiday. I just think because of the nature of 2 of the hearings that we're going to discuss, which we've already heard, may take several hours for us to hear.
which two are you talking about?
The ordinance regarding cannabis related businesses in certain zones, as well as the ordinance to amend the code of ordinance zoning to address student housing, 1 and 2. Now, the ones related to grant funding, of course, Restore New York should be time sensitive, I'm assuming. And 3, I think may not be time sensitive, but again, I'm putting it forward so that we are able to maximize our time and not hinder the voices of our constituents by having 4 hearings in the same night.
Mr. President.
Yep.
Can we have a public hearing on a day before the, we don't have to have it on the day of the business meeting, do we? Could we bring us in another day, but we could do 2 of them on a day?
That would entail we're here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
But the other issue is that we're gonna have extremely difficulty with the budget hearings that we have to have scheduled extra meetings for too. So having extra meetings is just not probably gonna work in October.
But Mr. President, I hear what Councilwoman Riley is saying and it makes sense, but I recall we were here till 1 o'clock in the morning one night. And I think that was regarding Sanctuary City. We probably had 300 people speak, so if that happens, it happens. That's my opinion, but I don't care. I don't have an opinion either way, really. Doesn't matter to me. Split them up or keep them all in one night. Excuse me, Mr. President. I believe that's your call anyways. As probably make a decision either way. It doesn't.
Which one of those do you think would garner the most if we take one of them? Which one of those do you think would garner the most?
Student housing.
What? Does any of these have legislative attached to them right now? that you know of? Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. President, you could probably decide later on. It's up to
Okay.
you. Think about it. I mean, it's up to you.
Then you'd have to announce them. All right, let's table that and then we will come back to that. But while we're still in session, we will announce that before the end of the meeting. Okay, sorry, everyone. We will now move to public comment. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and glad to have everybody back down here and open and safe. So we appreciate that. Mr. Clerk, tell everybody how they can participate in public comment.
Yes, please come down one by one. Make sure the mic is green. You may need to press the button first, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak. Please state your full name and if you live or work in the city of Binghamton.
Action.
Roll it. I am John Solak. I live in Binghamton. You know, it's interesting how the meetings got to be at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday. They, for, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years, they used to be on Monday. That was city council got wildly popular on cable television. And then one guy, Bob Wessler, decided on the chance that before an election, somebody would say something and he might take a pounding at the polls. He switched it. So it's an interesting, but I 6 o'clock is not a citizen friendly time. And don't you feel, why haven't the other municipalities in the area went to 6 o'clock? This is a joke. You're going to pay out $1.5 million in settlements. You know, if you go look at those books back there, you'll see in the 60s and the 70s, the council approved every settlement, you know, $500 for a slip and fall on the ice, every settlement. You know what these settlements are for? And you're going to vote on it, right? You're going to vote to authorize money for settlements, but you don't know what the settlements are. Okay. Onondaga County. Now, people think that I criticize. Now, we've got these politicians like, you know, I cut taxes. I'm fighting. We cut taxes 3 in a row. Mayor David gave back $2.5 million out of $1 billion spent over 8 years. Ryan McMahon, Onondaga County, 11% tax cut, 11% out of $1.1 billion budget, $100 million. You want to talk about economic stimulus? You know, maybe you can afford some Peroni or Hennessy or build a deck. They're going to fix the build. I was at the IDA meeting. The IDA is a bad landlord, by the way. You talk about Anzaru. You got this damage to the front of Boscov's. It's been there since the 28th of August. Stacy Duncan indicated today that the work will start on October 6th. This is only after I sent her a letter on it. You've had fire trucks. You had a fire call where the trucks responding had to be told that, by the way, that door is sealed. There's no ingress and egress out of that. And you've lost exits to the thing. So I wrote the fire marshal. This is a shutdown to me. This is a condemnation to me. You can't possibly go to October. Is there a plate glass shortage, by the way? Does anybody know? You can't possibly allow October 6th. And I'm a liability guy, you know? You want to take that risk? Fire, another mass casualty event. You want to risk 20, 40, 100 people's lives in Boscov's? And it looks terrible. You know, Libis used to spruce the place up prior to, you know, no matter how bad things were, you know, prior to the kids coming in, you know, this college town, it's boarded up. It looks like Michigan Avenue 2 years ago. I don't understand this. I don't understand it. You know, this city used to be fastidious, people that were thinking. Now, the city's not collecting permit fees. You have a whole list of permits in the city charter for events. And that covers anything that's, the only exemption really is nonprofit organizations. It covers concerts, it covers athletic events, anything with a paid admission. Somewhere along the line, the city stopped collecting it. But you know, and it doesn't even appear in the budget line anymore. But you know what they collect? They collect $200 from Laurel Bowling Alley. Because of bowling alley guy is doing it right. He's getting a permit. He's the only one out of all the city charter and all those permits. He's the only guy that's paying because the city does. So, you know, I mean, what gives here? What gives, huh? Can you tell me? How many, 30 seconds? What have I got? Okay, the legal fees to Harris Beach. I just received the communication. I'll provide it to Angela from the Committee on Open Government. Says that you can't redact hourly legal fees or payments and retainers to the attorney. That's not, they sided in with me already. So if you want to litigate that, we'll litigate that. Lawyers are getting rich, lawyers from Pittsburgh, big time law. And we all know how this works. there's a campaign contribution coming down the pike, you know? So let's get on the stick.
Abdelazim, Tremont Avenue. I published this article just the other day on binghamtonbridge.org. A homegrown equity investment firm founded by a former BU wrestler is quietly attracting silent investors and gobbling up apartment buildings and two-family residences, illegally displacing long-term seniors and working families, and converting these properties into cash cow student rentals. Brock, who also uses the name Brock Orion, has been a key player and co-manage a property management firm that specializes in student housing. He's also a founding partner of Equity Venture Realty, which describes itself as Binghamton's premier investment property brokerage. In April and June of this year, Brock purchased a number of rental properties, including all under LLC, so on behalf of whom it's impossible to know, including 101 Murray Street, 11 North Street, 97 Oak Street, and the sixth floor apartment building at 99 Oak Street. Not surprisingly, the purchase prices were significantly higher than our 30-year-old assessment system. For example, 99 Oak Street, the city has assessed at $230,000, but Brock and his army of silent investors purchased the apartment building for $1.25 million, 5 times the assessment. Why? Because student housing in Binghamton is an extremely lucrative enterprise thanks to inaction and complicity by local leaders over the last 8 years. This is causing significant harm to our residents and lasting damage to our neighborhoods. According to multiple residents at the Oak properties, firsthand accounts, direct conversations, Brock has sent a representative in the last 2 weeks to verbally notify all tenants at the Oak properties that they must leave by October 17th. That is illegal. In New York State, an eviction of a tenant is lawful only if an owner has brought a court proceeding and attained a judgment of possession from the court. Of the 4 one-bedroom units in 97 Oak Street, 2 are the homes for seniors with serious mobility issues and have been living there for at least 5 years. All 4 tenants pay $565 a month in rent. They've been told they need to vacate within 30 days illegally. See, Brock and his team have profit goals to meet. So displacement is the top order to allow for conversion into a cash cow that generates bank by the bed. This is crazy. Brock's team is already listing the property at 97 Oak Street as a 6-bedroom student rental property available June 2023, $695 a bed. That's going to please the investors for sure. They just went from a maximum rental revenue of $27,120 a year to over $50,000. Seniors on limited incomes with serious mobility issues be damned. The little cherry on Brock's cash cow Sunday, because Binghamton leaders refused to carry out a citywide revaluation, the tax bill for Brock's investors for 97 Oak Street will be less than half of my property at 17 Tremont. The city has 97 Oak Street assessed at $24,000. $24,000. It's going to generate more than $50,000 a year after we kick out these vulnerable residents. All right, so here's the good news. Since I published this article, those tenants have already been visited by Brock and his associates and said, you know, maybe you don't have to leave immediately. That shows something that we all know, that these folks like to operate in the shadows. They don't like when we talk about this. They don't like when we find out who's investing and which politicians are silent investors in the investment firms.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. But that's also why I've been arguing for 4 years to pass an annual financial disclosure form, just like the county does for all of its officials, right? The goal is to increase transparency, to increase ethics, to increase accountability. Because when we allow ourselves to operate in the shadows, whether the private sector or the public sector, it is a garden for corruption. So I am going to introduce again a request for legislation because the form is on the city clerk's website. I'll be doing that. And we'll see who truly is committed to ethics in government, whether it's a campaign slogan or it's actually serious. Secondly, please, you are in the budget process, put money in for a citywide revaluation. Even if you are in the minority, argue for it, fight for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for our two speakers. We will now move on to our legislative agenda tonight. Our first order of business is the preferred agenda. Would anybody like anything removed from the preferred agenda? Councilman Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I'd like to move 22 to 20. There's a seeker attached to it, so we have to put that in the non-preferred agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll remove that. Anything else? Okay, Mr. Clerk, please proceed with the preferred agenda, walking us through that amended. Or as
Yes. Okay, so the first item on the preferred agenda is introductory ordinance 22-128, considered in finance. This is an ordinance to amend the 2022 public works budget for equipment.
any questions or comments on introductory ordinance 22-128? Okay, please proceed.
Next, we have introductory ordinance 22-129, considered in finance, and this is an ordinance to amend the 2022 engineering budget for increased overtime costs.
Any questions or comments on introductory ordinance 22-129? Okay, please proceed.
Next, we have introductory ordinance 22-130, considered in finance. And this is an ordinance to amend the 2022 refuse fund budget for increased vehicle parts costs.
Any questions or comments on introductory ordinance 22-130? Okay, please proceed.
Next, we have introductory ordinance 22-131, considered in finance. And this is an ordinance to amend the 2022 general fund budget for increased legal costs.
Any questions or comments on introductory ordinance 22-131? Okay, please proceed.
Next, we have introductory ordinance 22-132, considered in finance. And this is an ordinance to amend the 2022 Binghamton Johnson City Joint Sewage Treatment Facilities budget for state and federal emergency disaster assistance.
Any questions or comments on introductory ordinance 22-132? Okay, please proceed.
Next, we have introductory ordinance 22-134, considered in finance. And this is an ordinance to amend the 2022 budget for demolition and air monitoring of fire damage building at 44 Lake Ave.
Questions or comments on introductory ordinance 22-134? Okay, please proceed.
And the last item on the preferred agenda is introductory resolution 22-77, considered in finance. And this is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a supplemental agreement with Peter Popovic for construction management services at Maravito Stadium.
Any questions or comments on introductory resolution 22-77? Okay, Mr. Clerk, we have a roll call on the preferred agenda as adjusted. We need a
I
motion and a
move that we
second.
accept the preferred agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Apologize for that. Go ahead with the roll call when you're ready.
Okay, Councilman Scaringi is absent. Councilwoman Resnetti,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman is absent. Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Strong.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, 2 absent, Scarinci and Friedman.
Okay, we will now move to our non-preferred agenda. First on the non-preferred agenda is introductory ordinance 22-127. Councilman Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr. President. An ordinance authorizing the sale of 14 College Street to James R. Kramer and Yvonne M. Kramer for $500. Secret text.
Okay,
Motion to declare the city council the lead agency under secret.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Motion to identify the property, the proposed action is unlisted under secret.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to issue a negative declaration under seeker for the following reasons. This is a vacant lot of in a residential area. The purchaser owns the adjoining property of 16 College Street. The proposed use is green space. The transfer will preserve green space and provide for future maintenance. This transfer is part of a city's side lot program.
We need a roll call on that one. We have a motion, that was the motion. We have a second. Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilman Scarinci is absent. Councilwoman Bresnetti,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman is absent. Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
and President Strong.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, 2 absent, Scarinci and Friedman.
I read the aye again?
Yep.
An ordinance authorizing the sale of 14 College Street to James R. Kramer and Yvonne M. Kramer for $500.
Second.
Any questions or comments on the introductory ordinance 22-127?
Follow questions, President.
Okay. We have a roll call, please.
Okay, Councilman Scarinci is absent. Councilwoman Bresnetti,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Friedman is absent. Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Strong.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, 2 absent, Scarinci and Friedman.
Okay, thank you. Next on the preferred agenda is introductory ordinance 22-133, considering finance. Councilman Scanlon.
Dear Introductory Ordinance 22-133, an ordinance to amend the 2022 general fund balance, general fund and insurance fund budget to use the insurance reserve and insurance fund balance to pay the settlement.
Second.
Any questions or comments on introductory ordinance 22-133?
Follow questions, President.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Councilman Scarinci is absent. Councilwoman Bresnetti,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman is absent. Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Strong.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, 2 absent, Scarinci and Friedman.
You already announced them. Okay, I think the best thing to do is to leave them as are and then hold them, most likely hold one or two of them over for a second session, depending on the participation or comments from the, not comments, but feedback from each of you as to constituent participation in those. We did that before. I know we had to on, but we've done that before where we hold public hearings open as opposed to the other meetings that we talked about earlier. So they've already been announced, right? You know, okay. So let's leave them and then most likely potentially hold a couple of them over and have then two public hearings in essence. Or in an open period where people can still send stuff in between. What's today? Let's see. Huh? Doesn't matter. We'll start. Okay. We're gonna just go to the top. Councilman Scringy is not here, so we're gonna move on to our communications from our council members, from each other, and we will start with District 2 and Councilwoman Resonetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, everyone. I don't have much to say. I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I wanted to say a big kudos to those who participated and had anything to do with with bringing together some community events this past week and a couple weeks. And I'm sure we're getting some, but I did end up going to Blues on the Bridge, and that was a lot of fun. It was great to see people together. And I know this isn't in Binghamton, but I also went to Apple Fest they had in Endicott, and it was just wonderful. And of course, there's always people from our community, whether Binghamton or outside of Binghamton. Also, schools opened or started, I should say, or Binghamton schools a week and a half ago. And I have some very excited little nieces who are going to school every morning. I want to wish all of them a fantastic school year. And lastly, I guess I'm just going to say tomorrow's first day of fall. So let's start wrapping that because the cooler weather is coming. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you. And I'll go to District 3 and Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Council President. I guess since precedent has been set that we will stand, I will stand too. We didn't do that before. Hello, everyone. I was going to start out with talking about the positive things that have happened in the city. I will put a pin in that because what we heard today was an example of the types of emails I get almost daily about how a part of this city is now being taken over. Now, let me clearly say that I'm not opposed to student housing. I'm not opposed to quality housing. I am opposed to systems that reinforce groups taking advantage of our current environment, right? So one, anytime someone can buy a building at 1.2 million and still pay the same taxes as I do, or someone can buy a house like mine, make it a congregate living facility, which would equal 5 houses, which would then make it commercial, again, and still pay the same rate as a owner occupied or even a rental property and not a commercial property, it is a problem. And I know many are thinking this is just the 3rd district, but it's not. It can happen in the 3rd today, and it can be in all the districts tomorrow. So just remember that. And we don't want to displace our seniors. We don't want to displace anyone. We'll say that. Well, I will say that. So let me just say that as we continue to think about how we're going to discuss all of the legislation that's before us. So now that that's over, yes, we are back in school. Yay, our children are back. We have in this community and our city council have supported, as Councilwoman Resonetti said, major events that I believe have united residents far and wide. You all know I supported Porch Fest. You saw me driving around volunteering. I might have blown at a few of you. But they love the fact that, again, neighbors were meeting neighbors right where they are. So I shout out all of the organizers. We also have Blues on the Bridge, as was mentioned, again, bringing our neighbors out into the street, getting to know each other, eating, dancing, what have you. And then again, I am representing one of our biggest investments, Binghamton Rumble Ponies. I was fortunate to go to several games in the season, and I was able to go to the final home game this Sunday, and it was great. They have been working with us, trying to come up with new programs and new ideas. So I just encourage council to continue to visit places that we support financially, make sure that they are representing us, congratulate them for doing what we need to do and for unifying our city. The more things we do like this, and Luma, I forgot to say Luma. Luma is another one that, again, we were out in the streets in the middle of the night, just having a good time building relationships. And again, shout out to all of the organizers. And again, to council for always prioritizing activities that represent our community, invite our community to better know one another. And as we saw in the budget, will again include children and our youth. And that concludes my meeting, my message. I will sit down now. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to District 5 and Councilman Burns.
Oh, yeah. Thank you,
It would be no.
President. Yeah, this is the first time that we're standing since COVID ended in this new microphone thing, so it's a little bit odd. But first, I agree with Councilman Riley about the way that the student housing people are getting away with, a lot of not paying their fair share of taxes. What concerned me this week was I went to and I know that the Binghamton School District is totally separate from the city of Binghamton. However, I think it's vitally important that people in the city start paying attention to what is going on with the possible closing of one of the elementary schools. The meeting I went to was over at MacArthur, and there were quite a few people there, but one of the members of the board told me that on other parts of town, they would have a meeting and hardly anybody would come at all. Now, if they close it, whatever neighborhood this happens in, whatever school is closed, it is going to be a big deal for those students and these families. Right now, they walk to school. Almost the whole town almost walks to the elementary schools. And what's going to happen is that these kids are going to be bused. Now, the north side, which is the poorest side of town, has a Roosevelt School over there, and that's the school that needs the most work. So is that the school that is going to close? If that's the school that closes, many people over there that live in Carlisle and the other housing project that's over there, they don't have automobiles. So on the south side where I live, as you all know, MacArthur used to be a middle school. They closed it, and the middle schoolers on the south side had to go to west. So my kids, if they missed the bus, I would drive them to school, or my wife would drive them to school. Well, these kids on the north side, if they miss the bus, they may not get to school. There may not be Uber money to get them there. And I think that people really have to start showing up for these meetings with the school district, and everybody should start paying attention. And I mean, I don't want anybody, people or some neighborhood is going to be hurt. So we should start watching out for it. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to District 7 and Councilman Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do share the same concerns that Councilman Burns has. The north side seems to be the forgotten side of town. I grew up over there, and it is the most disadvantaged side of town for sure. And I'm concerned that that the school could be closed, but again, that's a school board decision. We don't have anything to say about that. Speaking of the school board, though, so most of the outlying areas, most outlying districts have SROs in the grade schools. Binghamton has SROs in the high school and the middle schools. So I approached the president of the school board 2 years ago and asked him why not SROs in the grade schools. His answer wasn't a good one. He said, we can't afford it. I think that's a terrible answer. They should be able to afford it, and they should happen. Again, I have no say in the school board, but I'm not sure why there's not SROs in the grade schools. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Tonight, we talked about the sewage treatment plant and their workers were given a 3.7% increase in the new proposed budget. We pay our police officers, their contract states, I think, on the average, 2.25% increase. And a fireman, the same thing. So at this point, I would encourage the mayor to rip up the policeman's contract and start over again, because we can't attract officers in the city. We're losing officers to Vestal because they're paying more. We need to make it more attractive to be an officer in the city of Binghamton. That's the most important thing I think we can do as a city council. They protect us out here. So I would encourage the mayor to rip up the contract and start over. And that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll stand up too. I guess I'll stand up too. I don't really have much tonight. I do concur with the great community events we have in this area that encourage everybody to support them. I'm sure there's many coming up this fall, as Councilwoman Resinetti reminded us, as the leaves start to turn. But we do have a great community in that sense, and good support and good spirit, and a lot of events, family friendly, that people can enjoy. Put a little plug, went to a nice little place on the brand new little ice cream shop on the corner of Mary Street and Vestal Ave, on the border of the beautiful 5th and 6th districts. So I would encourage anybody that's over there to give them a shout, as we encourage all of our small businesses. We will invite Mr. Sabaka to a future meeting to give us an update. I do like Councilwoman Riley's jersey, and I hope they had a successful season. I know they talked about when the final pitch happens that things are going to be having at the stadium. So I'll be interested to get updates on that. And while the venue that they play in, we may ask a representative of the hockey team to come as well and give us an update how we can support them as well to bring people into downtown. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Thank you, everyone.